What's up? It's Phil from Fit World Exposed. In today's episode, I have a crazy returning guest, Beck. So I was getting tons of good feedback from the last episode, the overhead press edition. We discussed deadlifts at the end, but now I'm back with him for a part two. So pretty much expanding on other questions from the last episode. And if you guys are like big OHP fans, you want to increase your vertical pressing and your pulls, definitely the episode for you. Really gonna break things down, go into details. So hope you guys enjoy. So
Thank, yeah, thanks for having me on again, man. It's always good to talk about putting things over your head and building stronger shoulders and everything. So
yeah.
glad to be back. I'm gonna try not to like move all around this time. I heard I looked at the video. I was like, what the fuck was I doing? But you know, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, bro. It's like I'm going crazy over the advice you gave me. Even I even had a couple subscribers who are like do or die like OHP fans. They're like, yeah, I like the advice he gave too.
Yeah, I
So
saw some good feedback, and I appreciate it. Appreciate the people who came over to my channel, check out some stuff. Trying to I've put a little bit more emphasis back into my YouTube. I kind of go in and out. Get busy running a whole business and having a life. I'm like, I actually like this YouTube thing again, especially like as some of the other social medias kind of change how it works. Like you can't even post anything on Facebook anymore with anyone seeing it. With the
mhm.
algorithms unless you pay for it. So I'm like, so I put a little bit more emphasis on YouTube. Got a new camera, everything, and putting out some weekly content. Hopefully,
Yeah, it's looking clean, bro. So
appreciate
for,
it.
for all you guys who didn't watch the first episode, Kale Beck, he used to max out on his press a lot back in the day. He didn't see much carryover, but he did see more carryover from just building muscle all over the place, upping the reps with his strict press, and he would do the lower reps with his push press. So the first question of the day is, if the goal is to increase your strict press, how many jerks should be in your program? Because last episode we were talking so much about the push press for low reps, but
hmm
how much jerking should you actually do if you want to improve your strict press?
Um, I most of like I actually didn't do a lot of full on push press. If I look back, most of my training it was more of like a modified push jerk, mostly with a log, and I think it has a lot of carryover. If you're doing like nothing but like a split jerk, or except I don't think it has as much carryover for strength. I think it'll have where you will get the carryover is stabilizing a heavier weight, through your scapula and your rhomboids and everything. Just holding the heavier weight over your head is a huge help, and stabilization is one of the problems. But I think that kind of just depends on the person and their individual goals. Like if they're trying to compete in strongman, I definitely or something or another strength sport that has overhead pressing, then I definitely recommend doing more push jerks and jerks just because you're going to be able to put more weight overhead if you're efficient with the movement. So it
Mm,
should be your primary movement, and then push press and strict pressing, secondary for higher reps, like we talked about last time, and
yeah,
you
yeah.
you alluded to. But and it's also a good way to cycle. Like once you kind of get a lot of the time training, like it all kind of accomplishes the same thing, but you want to just do some you want to do like a cycle of you're doing push jerk this time instead of push press because you just did push press for 3 months. So
No,
just
exactly.
just kind of cycle it works. But
To spice up the training a little bit.
yeah, it's just really going to depend on the lifter. It is a more technical movement. um so you got to take that into consideration. I think it has pretty good carryover, especially when using a log because it's out further in front of you, even to leg strength and development. Just learning how to be explosive through your legs is helpful, in my opinion. But
But using like you as an example, like how far, let's say, like barbell military press or axle, whatever. How
uh
f- how much how much of a difference, like of a gap, is there between your push press and your push jerk?
um, it's funny because as I got stronger, I got less efficient. So just because
Hmm.
I started to occur certain injuries and I wouldn't take the proper time off. But yeah, I don't think I'd be the most efficient with like my jerk to my like I wasn't the most efficient, but I think at one point, like let's say I put like on a log because that's mostly what I trained. I put like I know like when I was more well-rounded, I'd do like 280-ish on a log. Could probably push press, and that's with like a push jerk, like in the 280 range, little bit of knee bend, not a full-on split jerk. Probably
Hmm.
250 to 260 with a straight strict press, knees straight bent, no like double knee bend at all. Probably in like the lower 200s with just a strict press when I was like more well-rounded with it. As I got stronger, it's a little easier with a barbell, or a lot easier actually, the barbell or an axle, to have a higher push jerk. But I never really developed one, put as much emphasis on it when I started to get towards when I started really gaining strength with my strict press. Um, I didn't do as much barbell or axle just because it was never heavy in contest, so I didn't really train too specific for it. Um, you
Okay.
know, but yeah, I'd say you should, it should probably be within 15-20% of each one to each other. There's going to be a bigger gap the more efficient someone is, especially if they come from like a weightlifting background. We can take like Rob Kearney, probably is currently the best split jerk with the log, in strongman. He's a pro strongman. He hit what like 460 something, I think, with a split jerk on log. I definitely seen him do 420 to 430 ish range with a push press, and his strict is at least 380 to 400.
Wow.
Those are rough numbers. He's
Yeah,
a phenomenal presser and all around strength athlete, but just giving an example out there
that's crazy.
from him. Yeah. So that's the thing that people need to remember when they're talking about people, like a lot of people give people shit because they jerk and they say it's like not true strength. There's a skill movement, but the people that are good at it, they still out strict press you.
Ah, for
Like
sure, for sure.
you need to be you don't just magically throw it up in the air, and catch it with
No, come on.
trickery. There's strength involved.
If someone's jerking like 400 pounds, I think
They're strong.
they're for sure strong, strict too.
Yeah, you kind of there is like super efficient weightlifters that you could point to that kind of that that they don't fall in line with like what we're saying. Their strict press is way lower than what they
Yeah, yeah,
jerk,
for
but
sure. But
for the most
for the most
part,
part, yeah, for the
yeah.
most part, yeah. It's like okay, so in the last episode we're talking about how to improve your strict press one rep max, right? And then you gave us
Hmm.
the advice to talk about earlier in this episode. Um, so and yeah, and a lot of my subscribers, that's their goal, like drug free. They want to hit like that 2 plate overhead press, like strict,
Sure.
dead stop off It's a great goal to have, but you're not a fan of doing low reps. But with that being said, how often would you test the strict press?
Ooh.
Like ideally, like if we're just trying to like reach it like in the fastest way possible, like that one rep max, like
Yeah,
the
working up to it.
yeah, like what 12 weeks?
Yeah, probably about 12 weeks. Something I've wrote like pressing programs out for people before, and I'll have them like you're kind of testing along the way to gauge, but I'll have them work up to like a heavy 5 after like week 4 or so. A lot of reps, and every like fourth week, then like a heavy 3, right? The next cycle, week 8, and week 12, we can maybe a single or a double. That's a good way to go with like the higher rep stuff in between. Just if you want to do that,
And for the
if that's your goal.
okay, and for like the push press, right? Since you're saying every week you go heavy on it for low reps,
Hmm.
I'm guessing you'll do like triples and like singles like pretty much every week, right?
Yeah, multiple sets of doubles to 5s, maybe. Sometimes some of those cycles work up to like 90% for 3 sets of 1 or something. Just to it's more just when you're doing that, just gain that confidence in the lift. Because it's so much of lifting is just a mindset and confidence and belief that you can do something. Obviously, you can't just 100% will yourself to deadlift 700 pounds or whatever, but you want to build up that belief in yourself, like, oh, I did this more. You're hitting these little PRs around the way. Then when you get to like do that goal of taking your you know standing strict press from 215 to 225, and you get in that mind game of, oh crap, it's two plates, you know. But if you're like, well, I did 215 this, you know, for the three, I worked up to 215 on my heavy three in the last cycle, so 225 is not going to be a problem now. When you know you maybe only hit that for like one previously, so now you're just getting past that like mental barrier, which can be huge.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. What you saying?
nah, I'm good.
Okay. So this may sound like a bit of an amateur question, but pretty much the heaviest lift I see on your channel is the 270 log off the pins, right?
Uh huh.
Like, and I'm noticing with a bunch of other YouTubers too is that their pin, like they have like this heavy pin press, you know? Like, is there something to like is there something to like the log off pins where it's like that's the strict press where you could go the heaviest on?
Yeah, I feel like I get more carryover. Like if you watch my setup in that, and this is
Yeah.
something that's why it's easier to do off of pins because you can really retract your scapula, really lock in your lats, get your back tight. And we talked about that a lot last time, just how important it is, you know, with your lat strength and everything in the overhead press. Um, but when you're off the pins, you could. I even have a video kind of showing how it's called like setting yourself up in the log or something. I have it on my channel. And I
Okay.
kind of, you know, I do voiceover and I'm describing what I'm doing, but I push myself into the log, just kind of really, you know, just pushing, you know, retracting my scapula, you know, a lot, right? And I'm able to, that's what I'm able to do is I'm able to set my back better to be more stable off of pins versus if you do a clean first.
Could the same
That's why it's heavier.
but could the same principle be like somewhat applied to the barbell or not even? Because it seems like it's
You
really a
you
log
can.
thing. You could?
No, yeah, it's just it's hard. The thing with the log is with the barbell you can get it up to your shoulders and then kind of get everything into position, you know, a little bit better. With the log, there's so much. It's such a bigger diameter that it's like suffocating you. It's like you know it's right on your diaphragm and you can't really breathe for a long time with it in the rack position. So if you clean it, then you kind of fiddle around with it and do all that stuff. You're probably going to pass out before you can press it. So that's why it's even more beneficial with the log. But I
Okay.
definitely do the same thing when doing overhead out of the rack with a barbell.
Like off pins. Just like
Hmm.
okay.
Yeah, you just kind of really, you know, pull your shoulders back, retract your scapula, you know, back and down, and you just get, you know, all of your, you know, your rhomboids and your lower and mid trap just really locked in, and you'll feel that position.
And
You know.
by the way, is that like a the strict press off pins? Is that like a
Hmm.
good variation to have like as a main strict press in like your program?
Oh yeah, it's great. Yeah, I just put a video up doing it seated at like a high incline.
I saw that, yeah.
Um, I just found an old video. I'm like, because you know, I just trying to describe that to a couple of clients. I like that just because you're able to really overload. I wouldn't use it too often. It's just nice to get that, you know, be able to really overload over what you can do standing. But yeah, even just you know, most people, the hardest part of the lift for most people, overhead is about like right here. Yeah. I guess, you know, I would say above my hair, but my hair sticks up a little higher, so it's probably a little like in
Mm,
between, you know? So being able just pressing from that position and it has some good carryover, I feel, you know, doing a, you know, or
okay.
even lower.
Yeah, but I wasn't talking about the seated lockout press. The one I wasn't talking about the one you just posted. I was
Hmm.
referring to like standing strict off pins at like you know the close
Sure.
to chin level. Like that could be that's a good candidate for like a strict pressing variation. Like
Yeah,
as a
absolutely.
main strict pressing variation in your program.
Yeah, that'll have a couple benefits. Uh, Having to do them from a dead stop, and also from because you know you see a lot of strict presses out there that are like strict-ish. You know,
Yeah,
like someone
yeah.
says strict, but you're like, you know, your knee's definitely bent, and like for me, like the strict press is you know, it people that only gets mad in how like you bring up the terminology for like you know people if they're trying to use it as YouTube for YouTube lifting, right? You know, which is
Exactly.
fine. That's pretty much the only thing I live for now, anyways. But like,
Marketing
you
and
know,
stuff, you know?
yeah. But for me, like, it's an accessory lift. I don't care if my knees bent a little bit, as long as if I go to that contest and I put up more reps or more weight, you know, in the next one. So who really cares if it's, you know, you didn't do it 100% correct? But it does it makes you have to do it strict if it's slightly off pins. Like you're not going to be able to get a little bit of leg drive or push your hips forward if it's elevated a little bit. You have to press it dead stop off those pins just with just with your upper body.
Hmm.
Really, you know, you might lean back a little bit and kind of cheat it a little that way, but so what that kind of teaches you is being really rigid in you know, locking in from all the way from your lower body up to your upper body and staying tight, you know, and then driving all that weight into something instead of having that little bit of movement, you know, that you can if you just have the barbell racked on your shoulders.
Hmm. It's a solid variation though, but
For sure.
yeah. So in the last episode, we were talking about the close grip bench. You're saying how that's like the only horizontal press you do for the most part.
Hmm.
And then when I spoke to you after, like in private messages, I saw one of your videos with the slingshot, and then you're
Yeah.
like, yeah, I do it on. You saying how you do it on back offsets, right? So
Mhm.
like just like as like a rough scenario, let's say you overhead press. You're doing two overhead presses on Monday, two overhead pressing variations on Friday, and then on Wednesday you got like your close grip work, right?
Sure.
Like let's just say roughly speaking,
Yeah,
like
I'll describe how I would do like a close grip day like that.
yeah.
So like, you know, you work up. I kind of use like, you know, a modified kind of 5-3-1 setup for the most part with bench, just going for rep maxes, keeping but higher than 5-3-1, more like 8-6-4 or whatever. You know what I mean? So lower percentage, higher reps, trying to get like, you know, the last sets to be somewhere between like week one, like 12 to 15 as like a, you know, rep max. Week two would be like a maybe 8 to 10, then like a 6 to 8, roughly. You know, of course,
Hmm.
it's always going to be variance in there. You might hit 12 on week one and two. You know how that stuff goes.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but then what I found really helpful, if you can recover from it, is to then, you know, work up to that last set, right? Let's say
yeah, yeah.
what can you do for like, you know, for like a 12 with like close grip bench?
I've done like very close to three plates for one, so I did like 295, 300 for one, so like let's say
Like
like 230, two
mid.
forty,
Yeah, so let's say you work up to like
230 ish.
245. You know, it's a good day. You hit 10 reps on your last one, right?
Yeah.
So then you just keep, you know, throw on a slingshot, or you know, or whatever
Okay.
brand it is, the same kind of thing, right? Then just do like two more sets of 10, that same weight with it.
With the same weight.
Yeah, with two. So you do 245. You know, you worked up with no assistant. You know, just you know, no rubber band around your
245.
chest.
Yeah.
Just worked up to that for 10, right? And then just take 245. You know, take a little break. You know, a couple minutes. Go grab that. Put it on. Hit 245 for a set of 10. Probably gonna feel a little easier. I want to. One thing I gotta jump in and just make sure is you have to know how to use a slingshot, or you know, before
Hmm.
you, because it'll throw your groove off if you're not used to using one. So if you just got one, if you bought one to do something like this, or uh, you know, are new to it, definitely just get some lighter sets in, just
Of
getting
course,
used
of
to how it
course,
throws up, you
of
know. But
course.
if you know how to use the tool, then just, you know, go straight. You can go straight into it, and you'll be fine. Hit, you know, then just do 245 for two more sets of 10, and they should feel pretty easy. But you know, and you just tripled your volume, you know, that you were normally going to do with that same weight.
What if it feels like too easy though? Because like with the slingshot, like it's a lot easier. Like it's
Don't get the full bore or whatever
okay,
super
yeah.
duper one, you know, like I try to stick to the
I,
light. I feel like the lightest variant one's the best, unless you're using like real big weights, like over 400-pound working sets. Stick to, I think,
yeah.
for for them it would be the, for if we're using like the traditional slingshot band, it'd be the blue reactive one.
Okay, but most people have like the original. Like I have the red one. I think you have the red one
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I've used both. With the red, yeah, I've used both, but yeah, with the original red one, you maybe go up 20 pounds then, and that's just going to be individual specific. Maybe then you go slightly heavier, but do like the same amount of reps or something,
Yeah, I understand.
just do
Okay.
265 for 2 sets of 10 after if it's like super easy.
Okay. So this is a pretty specific question for carryover, right? Like we're trying to do the close grip to carry over as much as possible to the strict,
Hmm.
just your presses and overhead presses in general. But when you're doing a close grip bench, is it kind of like, okay, you're gonna do shoulder width like you said last time, and of I'm just getting the weight from point A to point B like any way possible. Like, are you gonna flare your elbows if you have to, or for the most part, are you tucking, or does it not even matter? Like,
Um, with heavier sets, I think it's a good rule to tuck your elbows just for general shoulder health, and you should be able to use more weight that way. You should. Doesn't mean you will, especially if you're used to doing it elbows out. Um, I might do like every now and then I do like a wider grip with elbows out just to kind of hit like the outside of the pec just for fun. Uh, but yeah, you want to use good form always. I don't think I ever got great at the bench just because I didn't put the same emphasis on it with like trying to learn and how to use leg drive and all that kind of
mhm.
stuff. Like I'm sure if I put more attention, I could have used more weight, but it was more just like we're just getting in work. You know,
That's
I
it.
wasn't as technical with it.
So is all your chest work from your programming basically just coming from close grip bench?
For the most
For the
part,
most part, huh?
yeah, and do dumbbell flies, dumbbell bench, stuff like that, and a lot of that stuff you just want to keep in just to keep general overall health and not develop imbalances.
And what about dips? Do you ever do dips or?
I did. I used to. I didn't really do them just mostly because I trained on my garage. I didn't have like a good setup to do them on. I do ring dips sometimes when I went to the CrossFit gym just for whatever, just to do them better than everyone else there,
Uh-huh.
because I had a light body weight and relative good relative strength. Could do pretty decent strict handstand push-ups and ring dips and stuff like that.
So, you always talk about you talk a lot about like the Dixon press overhead, right?
Hmm.
But we never really got into like direct tricep work. Like I'm talking just strict extensions, you know. And you know
Yeah.
when you see guys talking about like, oh, the tricep long head and behind the like easy bar,
Uh huh.
overhead extensions and stuff like that. Like, what does your direct tricep work look like? Is it push downs? Is it a bit of everything,
Yeah,
or?
a lot of push downs. Generally with a band, just because that's what I had access to. I like them with a rope too. Um, but with a band, like you can do. I have a video on doing like three-way push downs.
Okay.
Um, you can kind of you go like the side from the top and the bottom, that kind of deal. And that's you're doing a lot of time under tension that way. Even just push-ups, like man, like some closer grip push-ups or some burnout set. That stuff's always helped. I think that stuff's underrated.
hmm
At the end.
What
Plus,
what about I was thinking about the other day, like as like a tricep finisher, like a close grip push up, like weighted.
yeah, no, for sure.
It's like kind of like
Or
a
with
close
like,
grip
or
bench.
yeah, or just put a band around your back and through your arms. Another way to overload it.
Yeah, like
You know,
so when you do those, you do like diamond, or you do like just
just same kind
close
of
grip.
yeah, same width I do like on bench.
Okay. Okay.
There
Okay.
there there is some carryover. I like doing It's funny. Robert Oberst, he told me back in the day, he's like, I don't understand why we do all our tricep work pressing down when all we do is try to put stuff over our head. Shouldn't it all be like this?
Uh-huh.
But he kind of, so I'll do like do like another one I do is like with a band, and you kind of set up like with it you put on the rack and you kind of do this whole deal. And I don't really know if I ever found any more carryover from one to the other as far as direct tricep work. I've done all of it. I feel like for tricep work, especially as strength's concerned, the important thing is to do the exercises that don't like kill your elbows. Because
Yeah, yeah.
and everyone's different that way. Like if I try to do like behind the neck like skull crushers with like a barbell or something, like I can't even. I feel like I can't even do 2 reps before my elbows are like this isn't working well. With an easy curl bar, it feels easier. I feel like just stuff like that. Like, and then just grabbing like a dumbbell and holding it like this is easier too. So it's just find the variations that are going to allow you to be able to continually load it without causing you discomfort is most important,
Hmm.
and to keep it fun. Like
Yeah,
this is just all the icing at the end of the day. So
of
it's
course, of
like
course.
I'm sick of doing rope tricep push down, so I'm going to try this variant for a little bit. I don't think it's not going to be the make or break one way or the other.
Yeah. No, variety is so important in training, and like not even just to like. I feel like just because people get bored, so people like to
Hmm.
have like that extra like. Just the fact that you're changing from like a really like a wider grip on your overhead to like a more narrow grip. Just that enough is more enough to like make it fun again.
Yeah, I feel
Do
like that's one of the reasons why CrossFit's so popular because it's always changing and it just keeps people motivated because it's always new. And the same with conjugate style programming. And I don't really think either is the most effective for most people, for most of their goals. But that's how they enjoy training and compete and doing it, and they're consistent that way, then it will be like. And then I've heard stories of like some of the old bodybuilders, like they literally had like the exact same back routine for like 12 years.
Yeah, like Ronnie Coleman, these guys, like,
Yeah, right.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I don't think you really have to change things up either. It's more just for training ADD more than to use all the
yeah,
variations. Like I think if you just find something you're like, I like to do, I like to do some barbell rows, then I do some dumbbell rows, then I do some pullovers, and you just kind of do that for like, you'll probably make progress, you know.
yeah. It's like I just posted a
But
video on like 3 rows you've never tried, or like 4 overhead presses you never
uh
tried,
huh,
and like people are like, "Oh, Phil, why don't you just do barbell rows and dumbbell rows?" And it's like, it's kind of like, come on, like you're not gonna
it's
do
fun
barbell rows and dumbbell rows for the rest of your life. Like, come on, there's more than 2 variations out there.
sure.
There's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
and also
Plus,
certain rows help you feel you more like you get different mind muscle connection, different activation with different variations. If you just stick with the same
for sure,
variations all the time, it's like it's kind of boring too, and like also you could stall out a bit too. I find.
for sure. Yeah,
Maybe,
it's
yeah,
just keep it fun.
yeah. So so let's talk about like pause work, right? So I just asked you like how much jerking you think
Hmm.
belongs in the program, whatever. Let's say someone like me is or like actually a lot of people who are really weak at the bottom. Like how much pause
Hmm.
work actually belongs in a program? Let's say if they're weak at the bottom.
Or just in what way?
Am I repeating that? Sorry, it cut off for a
Uh,
second.
yeah, I think our connection was a little bad for a second.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's good now. Like I'm just saying, like for like what lift, like pausing at the
Overhead,
like
overhead.
keeping the it paused, not just doing touch and go.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like you just pause the upper chest, clavicle.
Yeah. Um, it's gonna be just lifter dependent. Like I feel I like there's two rules. There's 2 ways to think about it. I feel like if you can do more reps, then you're doing more overall tonnage. If you kind of go touch and go, the key when doing touch and go, though, is to not just like let it just like collapse and like you got to control the movement through the whole motion that whole time, right? So if someone doesn't know how to do that yet, they should probably primarily do pause work until they learn that control and have the stabilizer muscles built up. Because it's the same like with deadlifts, right? Like, I have some clients and I'm like, dude, like we're still learning how to deadlift right, how to hinge, how to do everything. Stop touching going your reps because you're not practicing the lift only on the first one. Like if I'm having you do sets of 5, those next four aren't even doing anything. You're just
Yeah,
touching and going back
bouncing
up.
it.
You don't know how you haven't learned the skill of the lift yet. So the same as with the overhead. So if you're starting out and you haven't, got like good technique, every rep you shouldn't really be worrying so much about how much weight you did or how much rep. You should just be like learning how to do it. It's like, if you go and shoot a basketball, you're just going to shoot every one, you're just going to shoot. You're like, okay, I think
Yeah,
I
I see
got
what
this
you
form
mean.
down, swinging a golf club or whatever. You just kind of practice it. You're not trying to drive it as far as you can because you need to learn that before, you'll be able to actually translate it. So you want to pause, okay, up. Oh, did that feel like I drove evenly? Did I keep my lats engaged that whole time? Did I keep my, scapular tract? Go over these things that, you need to know to do the lift, then come back down, do it again. Because it's giving you more opportunity to practice that skill.
Okay.
As you get advanced, I think it's less and less important because you know how. And
Mm.
I don't think that's really um, what builds that strength out the bottom too much. I think that's just building overall strength in the shoulders is what's going to contribute to you blasting through that sticking point.
Okay. So just to reiterate, like in the last episode, technique wise, to help you out the bottom, it's like what really retracting the scapula, getting
Hmm.
tight,
Yeah,
of just like pushing with some heart, like pushing
yeah,
like you
like
really
you
mean
want
it.
to. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's everything. I can't emphasize it enough. Just like Google like retracting your scapula and look into it. I have some sections in my I have a whole section in my new book just talking about that, how to train strongman in a regular gym. And it's like a deceiving title because I'm really just talking about strongman training as a whole and how to think of the systems, how to like, so you can structure like, oh, I kind of see like how you want to train for that sport, and then you can take like whatever's in a commercial gym, um, and apply it. So so
Mm.
there's, what I mean? So we're like, okay, we have these kind of events, and then you're breaking them down in different movements and categories. Then you're going to know what's going to carry over for your basic barbell, dumbbell, machine movements,
That's
right?
it.
Yeah. So it's a deceiving title. It's not just like I think even if you have a full strongman gym, it'll be beneficial to people. But yeah, I have a whole chapter just how important it is. Like this is like kind of hard to tell because my shirt's black, but like you kind of hunch forward. Everyone's like this. It's like when you talk about retracting your scapula, you're bringing your shoulders back. This opens your chest up, right? And you'll feel it's like pinching your shoulder blades together. You're standing tall, like if you're trying to have like perfect posture, and that just brings everything into like that just locks everything in. So you're not just
Yeah.
driving just 100% off your shoulder. Your whole upper body's connected and driving up into that bar.
You just feel more like locked in,
Yeah,
mm.
and and then people say like you're gonna have to work on building up that strength and that stability, in your back and scapula. But the best way to build that up is to actually engage it in the first place.
Exactly.
So some band pull aparts, face pulls, it'll build up rhomboids and all that stuff. But you have to just practice. It's just like practice like shrugging your shoulders back and down, and you'll feel like your lats kind of lock into your shoulders and everything. But
Yeah.
that's what I see with when anyone struggles with the overhead press, just pretty much just about anyone, and they show me a video. I'm like, dude, well, you're not locked in. You got to do that. That's number one. Like we can talk about every different exercise and this and that all day, but if you don't do that, you're just fighting uphill battle still.
It's so true. It's such an overlooked aspect, but it's so so
Like,
important.
yeah, that's important. We could talk about pin presses and
Yeah, the
this head of the
fanciest.
tricep, but if you don't, but then the thing, like I just put up a post on like Facebook
I
just
saw it.
yesterday.
Yeah,
I'm like dude, if like you only like if you learn three things, just how to hinge, so you
the
deadlift
breathing.
properly, yeah, breathing and bracing right, and retracting your scapula. Like I think you and I wouldn't have to make any of these videos like this really if like people just learned how to do those three things. I don't think because you learn how to like use your body as a whole. and to be in the
That's
right
it.
positions.
No, it's a really good point. And a lot, and the funny thing is, a lot of these people like they do it for bench, and track the scapula, but they never do it for overhead.
Yeah, I don't know why that is, man. People just kind of, I see them all the time. They just walk up to the bar. They're not even under the bar, right? Like they'll be like the bar will be here. They just walk up to the bar. They like unrack it here, then bring it back. I'm like, man, where's your setup?
And they have this crazy
Like,
setup for the bench, but for overhead, it's kind of just
or
like,
yeah, or their deadlift. They can barely even fit it on Instagram. Their setup, it's so damn long. But then they just go to overhead and they're just like, oh yeah, it's a bar. They just don't respect it. They don't respect the lift.
yeah,
Where if you go and watch any of my videos, man, like all I'm thinking that whole time is like, how do I get as tight as I possibly can? I'm like, I got to get this locked in so much, like, and like I have some sets like when I'm going for like a new, we're talking about going for like maxes, like, that's gonna be the difference between at least like 15, 20 pounds if I just got that little bit more
you got it
set,
tighter.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Just that little bit, you
So
know.
it's a really good point. Yeah. So so with the strict press, you talk a lot about like you're a huge advocate of like higher reps, building muscle and just
Hmm.
if you look like you strict press a lot, you most likely could, whatever.
Yeah.
So what's your take on like drop sets and like and rest pause? Like how often would you do that? Like you just do it when you feel like it, or you do it like maybe like once a
Um.
month, or how's it work?
Yeah. I'm a big fan. I feel like the shoulders recover pretty good, So you can do like you're gonna recover a lot faster from doing like pause, like shoulder press, overhead press variations than you are like squats.
Of
you know.
course.
Um,
Yeah.
so I think you can throw it in pretty frequently and get away with it.
Like how often, like on not like roughly speaking?
You could do, at least like every other week, even for rest pause. I say is fine. Depend on the lifter you are. But I'd probably do. I throw those in sometimes, like probably like once a month, just like because it's kind of a fun little challenge. The problem I have with rest pauses is it's hard to write out and people to follow it 100%. Like when you're doing like remotely, like
Yeah.
people, even though like a lot of people wrote a lot about it, I just think it's kind of an advanced movement in that way. But I definitely did like. And the other thing with like with strongman training, a lot of the stuff, especially when I was competing, the weights were lighter for my class than my strength, so I might have to be doing, like a 200, 210, 220 overhead for reps. But like I still want to build up my strength, so I want to be doing like heavier work. But then so I do like back down sets every week and then just rep out like 180, 190, right?
Hmm.
For push. And I feel like that works out really well. I think you can do back down sets just about every week.
Yeah. Okay. And for the drop sets, there's no like, because I'm sure that'll help you build more muscle, like especially on like a volume day,
Oh, big time.
So how often would you recommend that? Like roughly speaking, like
I
once a month?
I think you can do them almost every week. That's what I'm saying. Like you can do a drop down set.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Sorry, I heard back off set. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
same,
A drop
just
set. Yeah, same.
terminology.
Okay, okay,
My bad.
okay. It's all good. It's all good. Okay. So let's talk about. We'll take a step away from the strict press for a second and talk about the push press, right? Because some
Sure.
people don't even care if it's strict or push; they just want to put it over their
Yeah.
head. So, what's your take on the behind the neck push press for
I
reaching
think it,
like your push press potential behind in
I
front of
think
the body?
Yeah, I think it can be real helpful as long as you have good mobility in your shoulders. You can definitely overload it and use a lot more leg drive. I didn't use it too much, but I know a lot of people have with good success. It's a solid variant, you know. It's a fun way to put more weight. You can definitely put more weight over your head. I wish I would come back to like strongman because they had a couple in like the early '90s where they did like a axle with like rocks as weights, like off of
Hmm.
barrels in the sand, and then people are doing it behind the head. I think it would be cool to see like the modern day people do something like that didn't involve a clean for max weight. I haven't seen that in like 20 something years, close to 20 years now.
You think if the
I think
strongman
we'd see.
you think strongman competitors would if they could pick to have that as the main push press, would they do it?
Um, Strongman, like they always get mad when like anything new pops up right away, even though it's whatever's old is new. You know, it kind of goes in cycles. So I think people would be open. I think you'd be cool because I think you'd see some people put like 600 pounds over their head. You know,
That's crazy.
they like I mean when it was in '93, some people put like 480, and they're a lot stronger now.
That's crazy. I
So
like honestly. I was doing it yesterday. And I like it a lot, but in the past I failed reps obviously, because I was just trying to see
yeah,
where I was at, and I feel like it could be a little bit risky when you fail reps on that. Whereas
yeah,
if the push press, if you fail a rep, or like it's a big deal.
yeah. It's definitely something you want to do more if you're going to really push it in a properly equipped gym with jerk blocks, with bumper plates, with lifting platforms. You know, versus like a normal like commercial style gym with like steel plates and people walking everywhere. You know,
Yeah,
so that yeah, I definitely think it's you want to do it more like in a gym that's equipped for that style of lifting.
but for people out there like just watching who want to do the behind the neck push press in a safer manner, like what are
Hmm.
some tips to make it like a little bit safer? Are they supposed to like move? Are they should people like put their head a little bit forward so it doesn't get in the way of the bar path?
Yeah, you're definitely going to be like a little more forward for sure. Do it in with the pin set high. So at least it ruins a barbell if you have to ditch, and do it to I wouldn't completely max. Like you might work up to something heavy, right, and do it for multiple like singles or doubles or triples or whatever. But it's not like keep like 5, 10, 5 good 10%. Because you're still overloading, even if you go like to 90% of or 95% of whatever your behind the neck push press is, it's still going to be overloading over your normal one. So I don't think you have to completely max on it, and
Mm.
you're going to stay safer that way if you're not going 100% all out.
Okay, so you just recommend it for like sub max loads basically
Yeah,
for the
but
most
see,
part.
sub max loads are still super maximal for your normal push press, so it's still accomplishing that, or it should be.
And you think it carries over very well to the front too?
Yeah, I think anytime you can feel more weight over, you're like, okay, well, I put 225 or whatever it is up this way, and you get there's definitely a training benefit to that, even just psychologically.
Okay. So, okay,
And
since you
it's a
keep,
it's a one more point on it. Sorry to cut you
yeah,
off,
no,
but
no problem.
it's a I think one of the biggest tools with it is it's easier to learn how to generate good leg drive where you're driving your lower body straight into the bar, where when it's in front it kind of folds people forward and they're a little bit more uncoordinated. But with here, like some here you can the weight's more on your heels, it's not going to go forward, so it's easier to feel like, oh, I get that connection where I in sync press up with my arms and my lower body, my hips, everything at the same time. So it definitely is a good tool in that way.
Yeah, no, it's a really badass looking lift too. I find like the
Sure.
behind the neck push press. But okay, so since you keep talking about like building muscle overall, like in the shoulders and stuff to press a lot of weight, what's your volume like on like direct work? I'm talking like I don't know, like rear delt swings or whatever, like face pulls, pec deck, reverse pec deck, like whatever you do for your isolation work. Like
Mhm.
I remember in one video, I think you said like if you're not doing like 200 band face pulls a week, you're fucking up or something like that. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, man. Pretty heavy, pretty high. Um, Usually I'll do like some sort of
like tricep.
shoulder. Yeah, I'll do like probably 2 to 3 lifts. Sometimes like the three-way shoulder raises. Going. I'll do like that for like 3 sets. I'll do like 3 sets of 8, 10, 12, then 15, and trying to keep the weight the same one, and then go back down, do it again. And that's when you're doing like raises to the side, the front, and then bent over. I'll do that. And then I'll do like sets of 20 on face pulls even after, you know. So I think it's fairly high, you know, with like lat pull down, like usually superset and like lat pull downs or pull ups with like a face pull or rear delt swing, usually in like the 12 to 20 rep range for the second, you know, for that for like 2 to 4 sets depending.
Okay. With like super low rest periods and stuff, I'm assuming.
Yeah, you know, try to
Try to.
ideally, you know it is, you know, ideally,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's fun at the end of the day, you know. Sometimes and sometimes you skip it. Sometimes you're just fucking just done, you know. Like you do your other stuff and you're like, you know, you're busy, you know, you're just happy to get those first two, you know, that working stuff in. And I tell clients all the time, they're like, dude, I'm swamped at work. I'm like, just go in and do like your push press and your strict press and some lat pull downs and get out of there, you know. Just do all that other stuff if you can, you know. Like it's real life, but
No, it's true. It's true.
yeah,
It's,
you don't always have the time.
it's not gonna
So
make or break you, but like it's still nice to
nah,
have it, you know.
you know, like that. Pretty much, you know, how I do my training now is I only do that stuff. But yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to the strict press and let's talk about lower body tightness, right?
hmm
I know it's like very specific, but like we're trying to like squeeze every pound out of this lift. So what are you doing with your lower
Absolutely.
body exactly? Like I'm assuming you're just squeezing your glutes, squeezing your quads, as hard
Yeah,
as
yeah.
possible.
Keep everything tight. Kind of shift your hips a little forward so they're more underneath the barbell, you know. And you don't want your butt sticking back, you know. You want to keep everything forward, and then just kind of, and it's really important to like squeeze your glutes and keep your hips forward for the stability.
Okay, so the hips have to be a little slightly forward.
I find it helpful, you know, just not like a lot, but you're just kind of like, because some people will get on you saying that this is cheating. It's not like a strict vertical, uh, you know,
Yeah.
strict press. But whenever I did it, I don't know. I'm trying to move this camera around, but like a little bit. See, does that work? Like I always bend a little bit, right? You know, at the my mid thoracic's always bent a little bit. You know,
Okay.
because if you can do that, you can get. You know, that's not really lower body, but I'm just talking about like general overhead pressing position. I kind of here. I keep my knees like slightly unlocked. It just feels like because if you like completely lock your knees, it pushes your hip, you know, your hips back, right?
hmm
So just like slightly unlocked, tighten the quads, you know, feel the ground through your feet. Open up the hips even, you know, pushing the knees out a little bit, even if you're not driving with them. And then I bring my chest up, retract scapula, you know, slight bend at the mid back, the mid thoracic, not bending back. It's right there, you know. And then you're here, right? Like this. Hips, squeeze glutes, forward press. You know, pull yourself under the bar, all that stuff. Does it make sense?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So it's a pretty okay. So let's talk about sleeves, right?
Uh huh.
Because obviously, people are gonna say if you want to be like you got to learn from the best, right? And then you see the best are all wearing sleeves. So it's like, what's your take on sleeves? Who do you think would benefit from them? Uh, is there a certain number that most people should be at, like roughly around? Like, could a novice use it? Like injury prevention? Like,
Um, I just found it like my elbows and everything felt better when I wore neoprene sleeves. You know, there's a lot of different types of sleeves. I carry most of the brands in the Starting Strongman store. You know, in different styles for people. You know, and if they want, you know, advice on individual brands, they're free to message me. And if I do help them, it'd be appreciated if they actually shop through me, not buy it through someone else after I helped them.
no,
It's
that's
always nice, but
it. Yeah.
you'd be surprised. People are like, oh, thanks for all the help. I just went and shopped here. I'm like, man, what the hell?
They
Anyways,
just go on eBay. They didn't even get it from
yeah,
you.
they're like, oh, it was like $2 cheaper on Amazon. I'm like, I see what I'm worth to you, Jesus. Um, but but yeah, I feel I don't think there's like a certain number. I feel like the main thing is when people are I get this a lot with like the Atlas stone sleeves, right? Like someone signs up and then people ask me about this, and they're pretty expensive. We sell them for $100-ish bucks. That's a decent amount of money, right, for a very specific product. And people, so like that doesn't really have many other uses other than loading Atlas stones. But people, like I get it all the time. Like, hey, I have my first contest. It's in like it was yesterday. Can you get me the sleeves? I'm like, are you planning on like doing? Is this like the only contest you're gonna do, or are you just gonna like you just want to try like strongman for fun and maybe do one or two? Like maybe it's not worth $100 just to like
It's not worth
for
the
that one
investment.
event, But if you're gonna do this for a long time, then you probably want to do the investment. And the same with sleeves, like. If you're going in there and you're training hard and it's going to be like something you're going to use, like a good pair of sleeves is going to last you years and it's going to be worth the investment. The really cheap ones definitely are not worth it. They all break. But I don't see it as like you have to be a certain number. It's just more if like, if you're just trying to get like tone up for the summer or something, like it's not going to be worth you spending 60 plus bucks, maybe even up to, $60-$70 on a good pair of sleeves, and depending on, your personal finances. But just make sure that this is like something that you're going to be doing for a long time. But
Okay.
I definitely recommend like neoprene sleeves. Once you're more advanced, there's other sleeves that do definitely provide some carryover, and I think there's some benefit to that. They're more of like the dual ply, they're a little stretchier, or like in a lot of my old videos, I used the Inzer XT sleeves, and those have like straps on them that you can really cinch down. If you really want to cheat, you can put the neoprenes under, get a little bit bigger of the Inzers, put those down over them, and then you're like, oh, it feels like it adds like 10, 15 pounds. No,
It's like having a
so
slingshot on your elbows,
man, it's like you can barely keep it down without weight. And then I've seen people do that at high level contests. They made rules in like strongman where you can only wear like one pair of sleeves, but then like I'll look at like old I'm not gonna I'll look at like an old like Arnold Strongman Classic on the main stage, and I see it and I'm like, that's a little bit of neoprene sticking down when he won that whole thing. That's just what you want to do, right?
No, for sure.
but
But like
but yeah, they're
yeah,
definitely yeah,
for
go
like the
ahead.
average Joe, like just getting sleeves, like what could they expect for the most part? Like more comfortable elbows. Do they use them on warm up sets or just like on
Mhm.
the heavier sets or like
I warm up with them just because I feel like it warms me up better. Everyone has different,
yeah.
different opinions on this, but for me, I'm like, man, I'm wearing sleeves. It makes me feel better when I lift. I'm wearing them. It's that simple. I don't think it like made me not build up muscle or strength by putting them on too early or anything. Dude, it's a 5 to 7 millimeter piece of neoprene. It's not some magical thing. It's pretty simple. It's just
Okay.
over your elbow. It gives you a little, even if it's just a perceived benefit. I feel better when I lift with them, so I always did that, and that was my stance before I sold them as well. So I tell people all the time to not buy things. Trust me. So
And I'm assuming the same thing can be said about the knee sleeves, right? Like it's just
yeah, hundred
okay.
percent same thing.
Okay. Okay, let's talk about okay, we're almost done with the overhead. um okay. Let's talk about the seated barbell press and the
hmm
incline press, right?
hmm
Like what's the best way to do these two lifts to actually get carryover to the standing strict? You see guys doing the seated barbell, like some some strongman competitors, they don't even go all the way down. They'll just bring it like to like the chin. See some
hmm
guys bring it to like all different heights. Some people make it touch at the bottom. Like how do you
Yeah.
get carryover?
The main way you're going to get carryover is if, like we said, you're good at the actual lift, right? This is something I wrote on, like, like a lot of people like leg press, and then they can't, but
Squat.
then they can't squat. But if you know how to squat, and the leg press is going to help your squat, right? Just
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's kind of the same thing. So you need to know how to do the actual standing variation well with all the stuff we
First.
talked about previously. Locking in your, retracting your scapula, locking in your whole body, everything. Then you'll get carryover. Um, and like a lot of people, like especially a lot of more of the like seasoned strongman competitors, they only do like seated pressing now just because like it's so intensive on your back every event we do that like you kind of want to give it as a break as much as possible when doing your assistance lifts. So it's very helpful that way. And when you talk about like they're only bringing it in on this high, you're talking about really big people. So most of them just simply don't have the mobility to
That
do it in
makes
that
sense. Yeah.
position, you know. But if you're a thinner guy, and you should definitely try to work on having that mobility no matter what. But it's just you're just putting in work, you're driving through. Still like you can get away with more when you're seated, like not retracting your scapula and still put up weight, but definitely still lock yourself in, retract your scapula and everything, and
To be specific.
hmm
But that's it. That's such a good point. It's like I was watching a bunch of these strongman guys, and it's just like, and even bodybuilders. It's like
yeah,
I'm like, why do they not bring it all the way down? And you're right. It's like a lot of them can't.
they're
They're
huge,
too big,
like yeah.
So if you're a skinny guy, you better bring it all the way down.
Yeah, if,
It's
if you
like
have the mobility, you should go as low as your mobility allows.
Laos, yeah.
And you should always work on improving your mobility, even if you are a 300 and something pound beast. But
Okay. Okay, so we're done with the overhead stuff. Now it's gonna be about pulls and random other stuff, right? So
awesome.
so with your strict press philosophy, you don't like the low reps for the most part.
Sure.
Does the same thing apply with deadlifts? Like how often would you test a max on like your deadlift?
Yeah, I do it pretty similar, like I talked about earlier. Like work up to like a 5 rep max after week 4. Week 4, then 3 at 8, and then 12. I think that works out pretty well. Um, when I have people that compete in strongman, something I tell them, I'm like, we're gonna max when we have a contest that has a max deadlift. But if you just want to test it out, you're probably at least every 12 weeks, if not more. The more advanced you get, the less and less. Because you might hit like a new max on something like that's a strenuous lift like a deadlift every maybe a couple times a year, maybe twice, maybe once, maybe never again. That's always fun when you get to that stage. Um, but yeah, I think you just you still there?
Yeah, I'm there. Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
it looked like it was cutting out. Sorry, but
yeah.
yeah, but the same kind of rules apply. You want to make sure that you have the skill well ingrained, right? And the deadlift's probably the worst lift with this, as far as with new people, because you can get in a bad position and pull more weight
Yeah.
than you can doing it technically correct, hinging, keeping your back flat. So I tell everyone, of course, to some, outside of contest conditions, if we're training, only lift to a technical max. And when I say technical max, I'm talking about, not like the problem is, the people also take that, then they also don't know how to push, which is important. So it's a fine line. But
Yeah.
when I say technical max, I'm talking about to a point where you're still hinging at the hips, you're keeping your back, especially your lower back flat.
Exactly.
You're not hitching. You're driving your hips through. So that should be your real max that you base everything off of. And I get a lot of clients, and I come and like we just spend 12 weeks getting their deadlift right because they've worked up. You can work up to a point where you're doing whatever weight, and technically it might be a lot less, right? Like you might be able to do three. I've seen people, they can do 315 with good form, in a manner that's going to allow them to continue to progress over time. But they might be able to do 5, like with their whole entire back rounding and their ass shooting up and everything. But then they get to that point and they can't ever do 510, right?
Yeah.
So, and obviously there's some good deadlifters out there that kind of go against this rule, but we're talking about normal, when you're talking about that, you're talking about people that are, elite level professional lifters. They found out what worked for them. If you're just getting
Yeah.
into training, you want to lift in a way that is safe and is sustainable over time, because nothing else is going to allow you to progress more than staying injury free as long as you can, and being able to continue to do a lift and not have to take time off of it because you hurt yourself.
Exactly.
nothing else. So
So I'm guessing you like for low reps on deadlift, you like triples and stuff, huh? Like triples, fives.
yeah, yeah, some high. I tend to do more of the higher rep stuff off of elevated position, just to really overload. And that's very direct carryover to strongman because we're always pulling from various heights, and most of the time that's for reps. So that's a unique skill that strongman competitors need to develop versus if you were trying to do powerlifting, is you need to be able to pull maximal reps in 60 seconds.
It's a good
More
point,
contests,
yeah.
so it's going a completely different way than you have to approach it. Um,
That's a good
so I do
point.
a lot of
Everyone's just focused on that one rep max, but that's like
yeah.
really related to powerlifting, you know?
Yeah, no, and there's a lot of things that go wrong with how people approach training for strongman because they all look at powerlifting and then they try to apply those same principles. And I'm like, man, we're doing completely like I know it's all strength training and we're all lifting weights and doing tasks, but we're doing different domains. Like powerlifting is very simple. We're doing the maximal weight you can do in these three lifts. Strongman, you have to be more varied in your strength because you have to be able to pull from multiple heights. You have to be able to uh, have be able to pull continuously heavy reps for an entire 60 seconds. You have to pull different variations in overhead. It might be max weight. It might be clean each rep. It just goes all over the place. So
Yeah, it's
there's
completely
different
different.
ways that yeah. I mean, of course, being stronger helps you do more reps, but it's a whole like I'll have people do like I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but for deadlift, as they get very close to a contest, this is a instead of worrying about how many reps and sets you do, we do time sets, right? So
Hmm.
it's like max reps you can pull with 80% of the contest weight in 3 sets, 30 seconds max reps, right?
Hmm.
That's awful to do,
Oh, it sounds
but
like it, yeah.
it's really preparing you to then do it when you come to the contest, and then I'll do 3 sets, 30 seconds, right? Then 2 45, then max reps in 60 seconds and a 3 week, and then a deload, like a wave like that. It
That's
really helps
crazy.
you peak to do it. It works well, and it took me it works well to do that. But I'm just saying it's one of the different kind of approaches when you have to think about like if you wanted to, uh, you know, train more sport specific for strongman versus one rep max.
Yeah.
But I do with the standard deadlift outside of a contest condition. I do a lot of like especially when trying to re-ingrain good form and habit with people. A lot of the straight barbell deadlift is what most people consist of speed work, and then we're doing like the heavier overload stuff and for reps with block pulls, and then doing controlled RDLs and stuff for like 3 sets of 8 10 to build up the strength. But like I'll do like 60% 12 sets of two, or like even like 15 sets of one, like every 30 seconds. Just used to being pulling fast because the deadlift's actually a very technical lift, and it's all about positioning and speed off the floor for a large extent. And so you're really practicing at that, and you're getting more pulls than you would just working up to a heavy three. I found it to be very beneficial, just you know, to do it that way. And then you slowly cycle down, getting higher percentage and less overall volume as you get closer. And then by that time you're pretty conditioned to go for some sort of new PR, whether it's a 3 rep max or a 5 or whatever.
Interesting. No, I like that. But okay, as far as the setup is concerned, right? I saw like there's a video where like I talked to a few strongmen in like the last few weeks, right? And I asked them
Mm-hmm.
about like the rolling, you roll the bar on the setup. Then I was actually just like an hour ago, I was looking at your videos again, and I saw in one of your 500 pulls you were doing you had a setup where you put the straps on or something,
Uh huh.
and your knees are on the floor, and then you kind of just like jump and then pull. You
Sure.
might you mind like explaining that?
Um, that's what I did later because my back from not from doing all the things I talk about not doing now. I did a lot of that when I was younger, just like most people do, and most people listening to this probably will do anyways. Um, So like, my back's kind of a little messed up. So I lift with straps, sue me a lot. And I found like what I do is like it just seemed to help for some reason is I could really set my back like I'll have my knees on the ground, I'll set my straps, I'll even pull the like a deadlift off my knees, right?
Yeah,
And
I saw.
because
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to set your it's kind of hard to like set your back into position when straps when you're bent over like that. But by pulling that, like just kind of, even if you're not pulling it all the way off the ground, but just pulling that little bit at the bottom, I can really like you kind of loaded your back and everything up in your lats already, and then I'm like I keep that and I just kind of get into position and get pump the hamstrings and do that. That's kind of why I did it like that.
Okay, so you're basically pulling the slack out when you're in a kneeling position,
hmm
and you keep the slack, and then you do that jump and you just pull.
Yeah, so
Basically.
I kind of pulled the slack out, loaded my back, and then I just try to. It's more just trying to get into position as fast as possible, so I don't lose it. If that makes sense.
And you keep your lats like super tight when you're at the bottom. Like
Yeah,
you're tightening up your
because you.
lats, getting ready, and then
Yeah, because you're almost. I don't like these techniques are not allowed in like powerlifting or anything.
of
Obviously,
course.
you can't pick up the bar, put it back down. But just for my own training, I found it helpful to really set my back because like if you're doing like you do a deadlift off the ground and then you go to do like a touch and go deadlift, it feels really easy because everything's already kind of engaged. It's like doing an eccentric. I kind of cheated and kind of did that before I even started the deadlift.
Wow. So this
Because you're able to
actually
get that
helps.
much tighter.
This actually helps you. Like, do you lift like this today? Like, if you were to pull today, would you do it like that?
Yeah, yeah, probably. Yeah, I found
For
it
real?
helpful. I don't. Hmm.
I was speaking to.
Plus, then I'm not.
Okay, kind of cut
What?
off. Yeah. In one of my last Q&As, with like another strongman, was talking about how
Hmm.
like a lot of the heavier weights like to roll the bar. Do you find
Hmm.
your technique with the jumping, it's more for like, because I never saw any heavyweight or anybody above like 200 pounds ever do that. But actually,
No.
now that I'm thinking of it, I actually saw like some lighter guys, like some, I don't know if they did strongman or not, just like some gym bros or commercial gym goers who actually did some of the same technique you did.
Uh huh.
I'm sure yours is like a lot better because like I didn't see them really pull the slack out. I just saw them kind of like strap up, jump, and pull.
Yeah.
But do you think that technique that you're doing is a bit more well suitable for like guys under 200, like just lighter guys in general?
Yeah, absolutely. Just because you have to think the distance of like my legs to be able to get in position quicker is a lot less. My mobility is probably a bit better. So I'd like to see. I'm gonna like try to get. My back isn't as long, so I can set it a lot quicker. I'm not the biggest guy. I think it would be pretty hard for. I'm trying to envision myself getting, my friend Robert Oberst to try to do that. I don't think it'd work out
Yeah,
very well.
like a lot
Yeah,
of
and
heavier
then
guys just jumping in general is already hard. So imagine a heavier guy jumping off their knees with like a where they don't want their
yeah,
big legs to hit the bar, you know?
yeah. No, I'm pretty good and mobile in my lower body. Um, I've always had decent mobility, so I'm able to get in a position like that. But yeah, it's not even just the mobility; it's that they have longer limbs to try to get into that position.
Yeah. But I know in the rolling version, a lot of it has to do with timing, right? Like you really have to time it properly to get it to launch. Is timing just as
Hmm.
important when you're doing your variation, your version? Like when you jump and the
Yeah.
second your feet hit the floor, do you have to pull right away, or is it like, what is it?
No, I've done it some ways when I've just kind of got up into position quickly and then took a second because I realized I wasn't in the right position.
Hmm.
Uh,
Okay.
it's just a way to try to keep my back really as like set and as tight as possible. Just so I can pull. Just because some of my is my back's a little kind of hit or miss a lot lately. Just from competing in the strongman for close to 10 years, it takes a toll on it. Takes a toll on you.
But do you think this version is I think it helps a lot of people get more explosive. Like, if you struggle at the bottom, you think using that could like,
I'm not sure if I'd really recommend people to do it. I think it's just like one of those weird individual things I've developed to kind of work around, my own injuries and stuff. I don't know. I think it's tough. I think it's a very individual thing. I think it could. I don't think it's a good thing to spout as like a universal rule though, because it's just so different. It's
okay,
just like, a lot of people they say not to roll the bar to beginners because it can be a bad habit. But like the heaviest deadlift of all time, actually, I think multiple of the heaviest deadlifts of all time were all done by rolling the bar in. You know, so like most lifters can't even get their back set and hinge properly. So you really have to just do the basics before you even like worry about like to
no, of
jump into
course,
position and pull and or roll the bar in. So I mean
yeah.
it possibly could. Um, I think it's definitely just something I've developed for myself. More I don't really teach client. I don't tell clients like, oh, maybe you should try this.
That's it. That's it.
It could, but I don't know.
But it's just good to know they have that option. Like, I'm probably not even gonna try it anytime soon, along with most of my subscribers. But just to know like
Yeah,
that option is there, you know. But
it's more just something I've used to how to get straps in and get tight and just get to the lift quickly. And you might do maybe a little bit of it's just for theatrics, like, oh, I can just get in this position real quick and pull 500 pounds.
okay, so so I've asked a lot of lifters this question. Maybe even asked you, but fuck it, you know. Um, Obviously with the deadlift, we're not just pulling up. You know, we're pulling up, pulling while pulling back too.
Yeah, a little
What are
bit.
some cues you like to give some clients to like help them pull back just a little bit more?
Um, I don't really agree with the pulling back.
Oh, really?
The proper deadlift is actually supposed to be a pretty linear path, I think. I think like I'll even tell people just kind of sit back in it because most of the people they kind of lift like when they deadlift it kind of goes arcs out for the most part. So if you tell someone to lift back, they're not really lifting back. They're probably still more doing a more linear, right?
Okay.
But how it really should be is the bar should be here and you should be pulling straight up, keeping it tight to your body, obviously. But like as it crosses your knees, you should bring your body towards it, right? You should
Interesting.
bring your hips towards the bar, not the bar towards your hips. That's the strongest lockout. So I tell people like once it's broken off the ground and right when it's about to cross your knees, it's important to just really just push your hips forward, squeeze your glutes, and meet the bar versus doing this whole thing. You never want to end like where you're way bent back. Like it's a
No,
bad habit.
of course not. Of course, like I'm not talking
But
about when I say pull back. I'm not talking about like
mhm.
hyperextending at the lockout. I mean
Yeah,
like you know, you get what I mean. Like
yeah, I know.
you pulling
I'm just
back,
saying,
like
like I think it's a cue that people use just to make sure the bar doesn't drift because that's the thing that's going to hurt. Make a deadlift fail before anything is if the bar um, drifts out in front of you. Most failed deadlifts are happen. Like people think like, oh, you failed once you got to your knees, and then you watch the video, and they actually failed when they pulled it off the ground, and that bar traveled back, and then they had to pull it back in, right?
hmm
So when people say pull back, you're just trying to keep that bar close to you, but really the bar path's pretty up and down, you know.
interesting.
Yeah, but yeah, once it's like right at your knees past, you just really gotta bring your hips forward to meet it versus bring the bar back into you.
Okay. Okay. So I got like two, three more questions, and we'll pretty much just wrap it up. So
Cool.
I was watching some of your car deadlift videos, right?
Uh huh.
And obviously, most commercial gym goers don't have access to like a card in their gym, you know. So
Sure.
the resort to trap bar deadlifts if they even have the trap bar. But what are some tips you could give, like technique tips, not like assistance or anything, like just technique to like lift heavier on the trap bar.
Uh-huh. You cut out a little bit, but you're asking about the trap bar as far
Like
like training for the car?
technique tweaks, yeah.
Like how to tweak the technique on a trap bar to carry over the car?
No, just to lift heavier on the trap bar.
Oh, yeah, I think the main thing with that is I have a video talking about doing a frame deadlift, which is pretty much the same thing, and I talk about some of the techniques to think about there. But to read, so people definitely check that one out. But really, think of it more of like a squat than a deadlift because it really is. You can overload the weight, and it should be a lot easier because the weight's right in line with your hips and your body, and you're inside of it instead of it being out in front of you and trying to pull you forward like a standard deadlift does. So to use the most weight, put your legs as wide as they possibly go. Usually is a better position.
Yeah.
Point your toes out. Really open up at your groin and your hips, so they're not locked. And as you're pushing off the floor, really push, spread everything out. Kind of like when people talk about like a box squat, that kind of deal. For most people, that should be a more a better position to use more weight on a side handle deadlift, whether it's car, trap bar, a frame, etc. You can use that. There's like I think like hammer strength that like they have like that shrug machine some gyms have.
Yeah, yeah.
I see people do like car deadlift style stuff on that, like even something like that. Just that's the main kind of takeaways there.
Okay, so there's the sumo, like more of a sumo stance to like reduce the range of motion and be more
Yeah,
upright.
yeah, and bring your hips into it a little bit more. Brings a little bit
Okay,
more hips.
that's smart.
Yeah, I was able to do a lot more weight using it in that way. Then the main thing, just think about it like a squat, not a deadlift, right? And
Okay, it's
and
true.
what like one of the secrets I always secrets is whatever you want to call it, but I feel like the most beneficial lift for the car deadlift was a very heavy wide stance front squat.
Full range, or
Yeah, for the most part, because I feel like it just built everything up that you need to be good at a car deadlift. It built up your
up,
erectors,
upper back and stuff.
um, yeah, your upper back. Especially like I put on knee wraps, everything just to try to overload it as much as possible. Builds up your hips with the wider stance, like the inside of your quad is important.
It's true. It's true. I saw that video you posted on it. It's true. Yeah. So okay, so last question of the day, and then for all the viewers who are still watching, you guys are pretty you guys are pretty serious because okay,
Here we go long.
yeah, we're not in any rush. So okay, so Zercher lifts, right? So a
Uh
lot of my
huh.
subscribers they like doing unconventional lifts, and a lot of
Sure.
them like doing like Zercher lifts. But the thing I've noticed with Zercher lifts, at least from my experience, is they tend like when you get to like heavier weights, like they really dig into the elbow, for most
Oh yeah.
people. So it's
Uh-huh.
like, what are some strategies that you could like implement to your training to make it more elbow friendly? Like high reps, low reps. Like, is there a certain pad you could use? Like long sleeves, pauses at the
Yeah.
bottom of your squat. Like what?
Yeah, I think they're easier to do with the thicker the barbell you can use, the more comfortable it's going to be. Um, using knee sleeves, or I'm sorry, elbow sleeves. A longer shirt's more comfortable, and just kind of dealing with it. I don't use too much zerkers in my own training, but I think there is a benefit. Um, and that's the main thing. Just the thicker the bar you can use, or putting some sort of pads around it will be helpful. And wearing so it's not like straight to your skin will make a big difference. But yeah, if you think zerkers are uncomfortable, you should try doing all the crap in strongman.
No, for
You know.
sure.
But yeah,
No,
that's the
but
main
then
things with that.
for like the rep ranges though, for like let's say someone's doing a Zercher squat, you think it's safer to do like low reps because like the sets are less long, or to do
Yeah,
higher reps because the weight's like lighter.
I think it's better exercise for lower reps in general. Just I don't think you want to do crazy time under tension with it. Um,
Okay.
Personally, I feel like for the way I always like to do the Zercher was just like a modified lift off of pins because you got to think like you see like the position like a lifter's in with like an Atlas stone. When they have it in their lap, your
Oh,
hips
okay.
are. It's kind of like a RDL. A little like kind of like your hips are back, you're here. So if you put Zerchers at like hip level or so, maybe depending on your limb length, a little higher, a little lower. You put the bar there, and you just kind of do like you kind of do like a scoop, like you just kind of your hips are
Okay.
back, you're here, and then you just kind of lift it up. That's how I like to do them for carryover to strongman. I know a lot of other people do them, like good strongmen do them other ways, or have clients do them, just full squats, full lifts
Okay.
all the way, like the old school style, like you pick it up off, you deadlift off the ground, put it in your lap, that whole deal. But I think
Off
doing
pins.
them off the pins like that, yeah,
But that's smart
is
because
helpful
it
because
deloads the at the when you're on the pin. Let's say you're doing reps,
hmm
you get that like 1 second, and you get that quick break to kind of deload it at the bottom.
yeah, yeah,
That's
for
smart.
sure,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So pretty much
Ye-
wraps it up. So to
Awesome, man.
all the viewers watching, man, I really appreciate Beck for coming today. He has one of the most underrated channels, at least in my opinion. I really highly recommend you go check it out. Go check out his Instagram. Go check out his website. I'm gonna put all the links in the description below. And just be thankful he came out again for the part two. A lot of gems in this Q&A. So hope you guys took it in.
Yeah, thanks for thanks for listening and watching, everyone, and appreciate you having me on again. Glad to hear some of the tips been helpful in your own training. We talked a little bit in between here, and yeah, just go to startingstrongman.com and check out everything we have on YouTube. And again, just put out a little ebook manual on how to train strongman in a regular gym, kind of break a lot of this stuff down and the principles, and I think it's helpful. I'll be shooting you over a copy when it's done, and let me know what you think.
Sick, bro. Sick. But so much information. Now it's just about applying it.
For sure. Yeah, go
Talk
out and
about all the
apply the
training all we
information.
want, but like not gotta actually do it.
100%.
So no, but I'm down to check out that book and we'll stay in touch, bro.
Sounds good, man. It's good talking to you today.
All right, bro.
In touch.
All right,
Have a
ciao.
good one.